So there's a few different ways to get to these kind of grinds. The first method would be buy pre-ground beans. I don't recommend that for a bunch of reasons, but basically you're going to end up with stale coffee. Basically, the moment the bag is opened, those grinds are starting to stale. You could buy whole beans at the store, grind at the store. Oftentimes the grinder there is going to be a little bit nicer than what you would have at home. I've seen a few taste test videos where somewhere around a week or so after grinding is about where that crossover point would be, where you're better off grinding at home with a cheaper grinder. But your best bet is if you can afford, call it $100 as a budget for a grinder. And that's going to get you to the point where you can get a decent quality, what's called a conical or a Burr grinder. There's either conical or flat burrs, but a Burr grinder is the important piece. The challenge is that there's this in-between zone. So the entry-level grinder is the whirly blade that's, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks or something like that. It's gonna spin these two blades around. You're gonna end up with a bunch of coffee grinds that are really coarse and a bunch that are really fine. You're not gonna have very good uniformity. Those are not great because you're gonna end up with those really fine chunks. When you put water through them, those chunks are gonna get over-extracted. You're gonna get a lot of bitter flavors out of them. The bigger chunks are going to be under-extracted. You're going to leave some sweetness and deliciousness in those chunks as well. So it's kind of the least common denominator when you use the whirly blade. The next level up, there's this no person's land of the Burr grinder that is underpowered. Technically, it's a Burr grinder, but let's call it somewhere in that $30 to $80 range. Typically, what you've got there is technically it's a Burr grinder, so you can adjust the thickness or the coarseness, but those motors are often underpowered and they generate a lot of friction when they're grinding the beans. So oftentimes you can end up scorching the beans. There's this excess heat that's created during the grinding process, and you can actually damage your beans, end up with an even worse cup of coffee than if you had the whirly blade grinder. So if you can afford $100, that's right about the tipping point where you get into a strong enough motor with a Burr grinder. The sky's the limit. You can spend thousands of dollars on a shop lab grinder and the prosumer home models. But for $100, $150, there's lots of options that can get you a grinder that is great for just about everything except for espresso.